Good evening. I think I may. Are we all here? Pardon my late arrival.
I think it's I don't see Madhurima. Is she coming tonight?
As far as I know. We'll give her a few minutes. What a wonderful day it was out.
I'm trying to see if we're paying attention.
Yes.
You must be talking about yesterday or the day before.
That's true.
So, Matt, what was the best part of your day today?
Solving some issues with the elections office and getting some of our stuff ready for election day. So, the little things. But okay.
Madhurima is having trouble with Zoom. Something about an invalid ID.
The link in the post in the agenda, the Zoom link in the agenda that we got sent did not work, but the a link Elizabeth sent did.
I have the agenda in front of me. That's the big screen.
Oh, there's Madhurima.
Hi. Sorry.
You're all right.
I'm so glad I wasn't the only one. Or was I the only one?
It did not work for me, and then I went over to the email, and that one worked.
Okay, good.
Yeah, Jody had similar trouble. So I'll see if she can replace the link that's in the agenda, because no one will be able to attend publicly without that link. So we'll need to fix that.
So we should probably wait till we know.
Yeah, let's give it a few minutes so that can be possibly posted publicly for those who want to attend, because I don't want to run the risk of anyone who wanted to make a public comment not be able to do so.
Elizabeth, can you forward Jody the link from the email? She doesn't have it.
Okay, I will try.
In the meantime, if anybody knows of anyone who would like to do some paid work on election day for the Cook County Clerk's office, I do have some opportunities. One is a little bit more stationary just in the evening, and one involves a lot of driving during the day. And the in the evening we have a role called data uploader, where we have the folks will be at one of 16 sites around Cook County where they will upload precinct information and upload it into our system. That starts at 6:30 and will go until all the precincts are in. That pays $250. The other position is called a field tech. It starts at about 5:30 in the morning. It goes all day and drives around a set of about a dozen precincts where folks can, they respond to equipment malfunctions and supply issues. They are a tech support for precincts and polling places. That pays $500, but it's a long day. Both of those positions may not wrap up till 10, 11 o'clock at night. And the other until we get all the receipts in. So we particularly need folks in the northern suburbs for both of those positions.
So Matt, I've been an election judge and an equipment manager for many years, and I decided this year not to do it. But and it is a long day, and it's very, very rewarding. But I just didn't do it this year. Are you really having a hard time recruiting people?
No, I think we're doing fairly well on, right now everything seems to be going apace for election judges in precincts. These are a little bit, these two are a little bit more selective of positions, a little bit more into what we usually, because these are the folks that where if something goes wrong and the election judges can't resolve it on site, they put a call in and the field tech comes and shows up. So this is, these are people who are in theory should be responding to issues that are beyond just a slight hiccup in the process.
Yeah, because when I was the equipment manager, it used to be 375, and you now say it's 500. So that's
It's a
good.
different role. It's a different role,
Oh,
Ted.
okay.
Yes, the 500 is a position that drives around all day.
Mhm.
So, all right. Let's see. I think we will go ahead and get started. By the time we get to public comment, it should be enough time for information to get disseminated. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Will the secretary please take the roll?
Yes. Christina,
Here.
Ted. Hi, Ted.
Here.
You're muted. Hi. Suzanne,
Here.
Colleen,
Here.
Matt,
Here.
Virginia,
Here.
and Madhurima is here.
Okay, excellent. Next will be our decision to a vote to conduct a meeting virtually. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Virginia, is there a second?
Ted seconds.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Will the secretary please take the vote?
Yeah, Christina,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Colleen,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Virginia,
Yes.
and Madhurima is yes.
Thank you all. And now we are into approval of our minutes. The minutes, we have 3 sets of minutes, 2 special meetings and our regular meeting. Are there any questions or corrections for those meeting minutes? Is there a motion to approve all 3 sets of minutes?
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Madhurima, seconded by Colleen. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Secretary, will you please take the vote?
Yeah, Christina,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Colleen,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Virginia,
Yes.
and Madhurima is yes.
All right, thank you all. Public comments. I did receive a public comment by Adam Paradise. He asked me to read it. Can someone please mute there? I'm hearing what sounds like a phone ring, or at least a chirping of some kind. Good evening. First, I'd like to begin by commending and thanking this board and the staff of the Oak Park Public Library for serving our community.
Yeah, I don't know
Further-
why.
Further, I would like to commend this board specifically for the October 6, 2022 resolution espousing support and solidarity for recent attempts at book challenges and censorship in the United States. In a word, it is a crucial time to reaffirm the Oak Park Public Library's commitment to the principles enshrined in the American Library Association's Freedom to Read and Library Bill of Rights documents. As the discussion turns to censorship and prohibition to access of materials, I would like to draw the board's attention to the second affirmation in their resolution. It states, it is resolved that the Oak Park Public Library Board stands in solidarity with public libraries across the region, state, and country as they face renewed efforts to limit access to books and programs. Library workers know well that prohibiting access to books and programs creates a chilling effect and is a form of intellectual violence. I'm writing today to draw the board's attention to a conspicuous absence in this resolution and in the library's extension of support and solidarity. Namely, our incarcerated brothers and sisters and neighbors are left out of this social justice mission. According to the National Institute of Corrections, Illinois has 92 jails in 102 counties. The jail population in 2020 was 19,110. As of December 31st, 2020, the number of prisoners under jurisdiction of the state of Illinois correctional authorities was 29,729, located in 28 state prisons and held in custody of private prisons or local jails. And as of December 31st, 2020, Illinois community correction population was 88,894 under probation and 24,744 under parole. The United States has the perverse honor of being the world's largest jailer, with 20% of the world's prisoners here in the United States of America, a nation that accounts for only about 4.5% of the entire global population. Now, it is instructive that the American Library Association, the professional and institutional sources for this board's resolution, extends the freedom to read in the Library Bill of Rights documents to include the freedom and right to read for incarcerated persons. To this end, ALA quotes former Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall. When the prison gates slam behind an inmate, he does not lose his human quality. His mind does not become closed to ideas. His intellect does not cease to feed on a free and open interchange of opinions. His yearning for self-respect does not end, nor is his quest for self-realization concluded. If anything, the needs for identity and self-respect are more compelling in the dehumanizing prison environment. In a word, to prohibit these materials is a form of intellectual violence. This board, in its extension of solidarity and support for library workers in general, ought to seek out, create programming and resources for library workers working in the particularly inhumane realm of incarcerated persons. To provide resources and solidarity to library workers supporting the intellectual and moral development of incarcerated people would be to directly confront and counter real censorship, real prohibitions on the access of information, and would directly address and remediate the intellectual violence that prohibits incarcerated folks from exercising their rights to read and self-improvement. In other words, if the freedom to read is essential and so absolutely foundational in all ways this board acknowledges, it needs to extend to our most vulnerable and marginalized and dehumanized. Barring the complete abolition of prison and the carceral state in Shahala, the intellectual liberation espoused, this board's resolution needs to extend to our incarcerated communities. This can be done by combating legislation preventing access to electronic materials in Illinois prisons, planning and executing a Books to Prisoners program where prisoners can select their own reading materials, focusing on so-called recidivism and anti-recidivism programs, partnering with local organizations like Liberation Library in Chicago, who provides reading materials to incarcerated youth, or Chicago Books to Women in Prison, who do the similar. This could take the form of a standing wholesale dictionary order or GED study, or legal aid materials order distribution to library workers serving the incarcerated. These actions would directly address dehumanization and intellectual violence almost immediately, remediating the poor conditions for the most vulnerable and dehumanized in our society. All of this stems from the extension of solidarity and support to incarcerated and the library workers serving incarcerated peoples. These principles follow easily from the already articulated and the values held by this board. If Harwood Institute slogans are still instructive for the board, we could say that the turning outward needs to include turning first to the communities most systemically deprived of their humanity. And that is thank you from Adam Paradise. All right. I see Rory. Would you like to make a comment?
I would. You can hear me, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. My reason for speaking to you tonight is to offer more detail on the failed cleaning contract with Alpha Building Maintenance Services. I've emailed to Board President Matt Firth 2 videos pertaining to the first floor terrazzo flooring and request of him that he share it with the rest of the library board. I ask that what I say tonight be added to the meeting minutes. Alpha failed to perform the work in the contract. And I'd like to point out to you all that this contracted work was to have been completed by August the 25th of 2022. Alpha did not even come close to meeting the terms of that contract. Alpha failed completely. And as the documents I sent you last month show, they were paid in full for this failure. Again, I ask, how do your administrators justify this? This is the second consecutive failed cleaning contract. The first failed contract was with a company called Corvus Janitorial Systems. Both Corvus and Alpha failed completely, and their failures centered on, but were not limited to, servicing our floors. Corvus's failure resulted in a rebate and the termination of the contract, and rightfully so. By contrast, Alpha's failures were rewarded with payments in full and an automatic contract extension. Alpha initially won the contract in August of 2021 after filing a FOIA request seeking the dollar amount for our existing contract with Corvus. They then underbid that contract by a small amount. They did not even show up for the RFP walkthrough at the Mays and Dole branches. I know this because I was there. I led that RFP walkthrough. At that walkthrough, Alpha's representative asked one single question, then left the building. He did not even inspect the main branch. The question he asked was who had the existing contract. They used that information coupled with a FOIA request to underbid all other proposals. In spite of those facts and against my experienced advice, the decision was made to award Alpha the contract. That proposal from Alpha and the decision to award to them made a complete mockery of our RFP process. The proposals given in earnest by competing contractors range from $460,000 to $220,000 a year to clean our building and effectively treat our floors. Make no doubt here, this is a problem. 2 months ago, I pointed out 10 facts. Those facts can be found in the board-approved meeting minutes for August of 2022. Our library is being neglected. Questionable payments are being made for work that is not getting done. This neglect and those questionable payments are taking place on your watch. I have asked and continue to ask that you discuss this matter publicly, that you make it an agenda item, that you get an explanation from your administrators why they are paying in full for work that has not been completed, for work that hasn't even come close to being completed. Justify these payments. We owe that much to our taxpayers. That is all that I have, and thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you very much. Are there any other guests who wish to make a public comment at this time? Anyone else want to raise their hand in Zoom? Okay. Seeing no indications. Okay. Peggy Conlon Madigan.
Good evening. I had no plans to call in this evening, but when I tried to join off of the Zoom link at 6:30, it was non-functional. So I immediately called the very helpful, always very helpful staff on the reference desk. And I was put on hold for 4 minutes while they tried to figure that out. I just asked, please send me a link. And then I was told, we tried to get on as well using that link and we were unable, and let us look into this and we'll give you a call back. So 17 minutes after the meeting began, I was sent a link that enables me to, and anyone else who is an Oak Park citizen interested in our wonderful library, access to the meeting. So this begs the question, there can be mistakes or glitches that happen, any day of the week. That isn't so much the issue as it causes me to ask, when will the Oak Park Public Library have in-person and Zoom meetings? My understanding is that the Village of Oak Park board meetings now operate in that hybrid fashion. I would like an answer to that question. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to make a public comment at this time? All right, hearing none, we will move on in our agenda to trustee comments and calendar. We'll see on the calendar that in just under 2 weeks is Jocelyn's first day, which I believe will make this Lori's last meeting as interim executive director. And I think I can speak on behalf of everyone else on the board. Thank you very much, Lori. Your service in this was really greatly appreciated and made this whole process a lot easier for us to get through on our end, speaking for myself and I would imagine some other folks.
Thank you so much. It's bittersweet. It really is. I appreciate the time I had with you all, and I look forward to attending meetings in support of our new director and all the new exciting things she's going to bring for us at the library. So we're all very excited here.
Excellent. Anything else you want to, or before I get on to trustee comments, anything else from the calendar you want to raise to our attention?
The All Staff Learning and Engagement Day is coming up December 2nd. And you're all welcome to be a part of that if you'd like to be.
Okay. I think I will plan to attend that. Hopefully I'll be done with the November election by then, I hope. Recovered appropriately. Any other trustee comments?
I just wanted to alert my fellow trustees in case they hadn't seen that there was a rather robust, let's say, library party love fest on one of the local Facebook groups this last week. I know that somebody in that group tagged Jody, so I hope you saw that. There was just like a big old love fest for the library, and wanted to make sure that everybody knew that our community had spent a considerable amount of time just retweeting comments about how awesome our library is.
I saw that on Sunday. I'm not on Facebook, but Jennifer Norberg shared it with me, and it made my weekend. That was so wonderful. I really appreciated everything everyone shared. It just kept going and going. It was lovely.
Yeah, I'm not sure what, I think it was a mom's group. So I am not, I don't have the privilege of having seen it firsthand.
Me either.
I can send you screenshots.
That would be awesome.
No, I don't think that's allowed, right?
Oh, no, it's not.
You can send it via email if
I'll do a dramatic reading. Is that allowed?
there you go. Well, we can do interpretive dance readings at our next meeting, at our next board meeting. And anything else?
I actually have Peggy's question about the move to in-person for meetings. Do we have any idea when that will be happening for us?
I believe we'll be resuming in-person meetings in November.
In November? So we think
Yeah.
next month's meeting?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm still in the, when we were doing the executive director search, so I just assumed next, but yes, next month's meeting. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Matt, I have asked David Celeb and Jocelyn for lunch on the 2nd of November. It's just kind of a private get together. So just to let you know. And
Yeah, yeah,
Lori
you let me
knows
know.
about that, but this will be completely, just a nice time to be together. So
Okay. Any other comments? All right. We'll move along to staff reports.
A lot of content in this staff report. I hope that you were all able to appreciate everything that was shared. I'll just point your attention to, I think, the exceptional new cardholder campaign that the communications team did, and the re-engagement strategy to get inactive cardholders back involved with the library. We really overhit our marks here. We were 25% above what we had done in 2019 for new cardholder recruitment, and 10% reactivation of inactive cardholders. So it was very successful, and kudos to Jody's team. Also, I mean, there's so much to talk about here, but Stranger Things, again, was just such a great collaboration. And I know that the library staff are thinking about what their next big event's going to be. They had so much fun doing it. They had such a great community response to it with over 300 attendees. And so it was very reinforcing for the programmers, and they're excited about their planning their next thing. I don't know what it'll be yet, but I'm sure it'll be great. The author roster that we've had so far and that we have coming up is amazing. And Alex Skinner is on the call if anybody has any questions for her. We had a very successful Barbara Ballinger. And so many great things there. So if you have any questions about anything you read, I'll try to answer, or other staff on the call can answer.
I do not have anything. Do any other trustees have anything that jumped out at them? Okay.
I was just looking through the videos, the how-to library video series, and I was really just impressed. I feel like I'm constantly learning about more things that we do, but it was such a good way to learn about what is offered through the library. And I was trying to do my Spanish through Mango and all of that. So I love that you all have so much there and that you're trying to promote those things. Because when I talk to people, they still, sometimes think it's just a place for books. So I think the more that we can do to get the word out about all these other services, the better.
Thank you, Christina.
So yes, it is always interesting when running into folks and talking about the things we are doing, and they go and they ask about something, and we get a chance, and I get the chance to say, "Oh, we're already doing that." Or I say, or even sometimes I forget that what we're doing, and I say, "Well, I'll bring that up to staff," and I get an email back from staff that says, "Hey, Matt, here's this thing we did 2 weeks ago." So,
I love it.
and then we have our core statistics.
So the increase in community outreach, I feel like that's, I think, a couple of pages down, maybe. There it is. Was that linked to the cardholder?
That is community engagement teamwork. So that's a lot of book bikes, block parties, things like that. They always have big numbers while the weather's still good. And so I think that's what explains that increase.
It's nice to see.
Agreed.
And on the book bike, has there ever been a thought of having another book bike? Having two? Or is that too much?
We'd have to grow the team. But I think the community would definitely enjoy another book bike. I think they have to say no to events because we can't possibly do all the things we're asked to do.
I know, I was told no.
Oh,
For a block party. So that's what made me think that, it would be like, and thinking how many block parties there are in Oak Park. And, that the demand must be really high. And when I filled in the form and looking at all the wonderful things that you can do in terms of like a history or a story time or all, it's just, I love it so much. And so, and realizing that there's just one, just wondering about that. Plans for the
I was rejected also this summer for book bike, but I got it for the fall. We actually have our block party coming up this weekend, and I secured it for that.
So was I. What does it cost to get another staff and book bike?
Well, the bike itself wouldn't be the cost. It would be the staff to do the bike. But we could consider exploring perhaps maybe some volunteers or interns, or there's other ways that we could probably staff the bike. So I will make a note that book bike expansion might be something to look at for next summer.
Lori, I know you just mentioned like book bike for next summer, but do we have I'll say a Chicago cold weather version of the book bike, something that would be prepared for indoors, maybe meeting at one of the park departments or something like that, something that would be similar and offer similar programming, but would not require pedaling through 3 feet of snow?
We do that, Virginia. We have the children's services staff go to the park after school events and drop off books and do programs. So we do have a winter version, I guess, an indoor version of outreach.
Okay. Can it be, I guess, requested for, it wouldn't be block parties, but something similar? Like, does it have that sort of similar individualized community outreach?
No, that we don't do. It's more of a working with existing programming through the parks. But that's interesting as an idea. I can share that with Jennifer Norberg to see what's possible.
Okay, I'm just trying to stretch that season out a little bit longer. Because like you said, with biking, we're really kind of limited to how long we can get the physical book bike out. But if we can get the programming out through some other means, might open up some employees that are willing to do it, and might get us a few more months out of the program. So thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. We will go on to the additions and terminations. So, so we are moving through that. Are there any questions on this report? All right, hearing none. Go ahead.
My only question is, the last time we talked about, the part-time and the full-time, it looked like we were getting more full-time and getting people moved from part-time to full-time. And it looks like all of the additions are part-time. So just wondered about that and how, what the thinking is behind that, and how that fits with the goal of having more full-time.
I think Billy could speak to this, but go ahead, Billy.
Yeah, Lori, I was pausing long enough to see if you wanted to take a I was formulating my answer. No, so I think you're looking at the additions for this month. There's 4 library assistants that are added. It's so far, we are looking for full-time conversions when it makes sense for the position, and it makes sense, and that we're able to afford it in the budget. And so it can't be because of those limitations, it can't be every single position. So the two that you see, the one in adult services and the one in patron services, those are hired at straight replacements. Those are people who resigned, perhaps like in the previous month, and we're able to fill that position. These were at the early October. So they're just straight replacements. The middle and high school services. For middle and high school services, that actually is an expansion of middle and high school services. We're growing that team as we can afford to do so, to support all the programs and all the work that the middle and high school team is doing to serve our middle and high schoolers in Oak Park. So that's an expansion of the team. Lori, I don't know if you want to add to that about teams, middle and high school services.
No, I mean, I think that explains it. I think these are kind of evolutions as far as the potential for full-time is there eventually. We might have, say, we hire part-time staff and then they leave, we might be able to convert someone into a full-time position, but we do have to have the benefit money to be able to do that. And so that's what we're balancing, as he said. So when it's possible, we will do it. But it does have to start with part-time. We're always going to have part-time staff. We have to have them. We have to have, we have to bring new people in. We have to be able to do that. But when we can convert them, that's our goal. We try to.
Yeah. And when Lori mentions we have to have part-time, it's because of coverage. I mean, because of the number of hours that the library is open for service. But specifically with these middle and high school positions, we really only need them between 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock during weekdays. And so it was adding those hours. And in this place, we needed 2 people because there's a middle school services area and a high school services area. And you can't do it with one person. So yeah, I mean, these are things that we evaluate and look at when we're looking at, is it going to be a part-time? Is it going to be a conversion? One more thing we look at with conversions, I just want to add this as we're talking about it. So conversions, one thing that makes conversions difficult is oftentimes you might have a 20-hour staff member in one service area who we might try to add 20 hours in another service area. And what happens in that situation is you have one staff member who has 2 managers, and it creates reporting to 2 people can create its own issues. And so that's something that we also have to consider, is how is that person going to be managed, and how similar are the roles? Are they completely different? What about 2 schedules, like 2 managers doing schedules? There's a lot of complications with that. So number of considerations, but that's where we did need these part-time roles added for service and support for our patrons. But yeah.
Thank you. I remembered, I think last time when we were looking at the additions and terminations, it looked like we were heading toward, that the balance was more full-time, and this time it just, some of those that were terminations last time seemed to, like you said, be replaced. So I was just
Yeah,
understand.
we hover around 60% right now. Around 60% of our staff are full-time. And 5 years ago, 40% of our staff was full-time. So I mean, we're making progress. It's just it's incremental progress. So with all those factors considered.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So Billy and Lori, I have a question about the special collections archivist position. I was a little confused as to how that has changed when Lee Turillo went from one to the other. Could you explain what that position is for a special collections archivist?
Well, the special collections team has an archivist, it has a curator, and then it has a librarian, right, Billy? I'm trying to remember the constellation of the team. And Lee directs that group, so her expertise in art, in special collections is still available, but she's not doing the day-to-day work of the archival work. We have an archival librarian doing that.
Yeah, I'll add to what Lori says is the special collections team is now larger than it's ever been. It now has it's benefiting from Lee as the director of collections. And if you'll notice on the staff changes report, I don't know who's got the screen right now. If we go to the staff changes. So there are some recent staff changes. So it's the next page 27. At the bottom, you'll see that Kathleen, Lee Turillo is the director of collections. Lee oversees, manages Barbara Fitzgerald and Kathleen Spale. I'll focus on special collections right now. So Kathleen Spale is the title changed to manager and curator of special collections. Previously, Kathleen also oversaw materials handling, but is now focused exclusively, so full-time in special collections. And under Kathleen, there are 3 staff members, 2 full-time archivists and 1 part-time specialist. And so, I just want to say that there's a lot of support for special collections, and that's because we want. Actually, Laura, do you want to add? I don't want to misspeak here. Do you want to add for special collections, like
why we have so many positions?
Why is the team growing, Lori?
Well, one reason. Sorry, my phone's ringing. I apologize. One of the reasons is because of the programming and engagement that the team is doing in addition to the archival work. And that's a new area for special collections. It's not strictly on handling the materials anymore. We're promoting them, we're providing tours, we're doing exhibits, we're doing school visits, a lot of things related to promotion of the collections and making them more accessible. So that requires a larger team.
Yeah, in addition to all the digitization of the archives that's happening too, all the metadata that one of our archivists is working through. So.
And are we looking for new materials from our community to go into our archive and special collections?
I think so. I mean, I think as part of our anti-racism journey, we're trying to do more with getting diverse collections in special collections. And Lee, I could certainly have her maybe write up the direction and the exploration that they're going through right now. I don't want to, speak out of turn. I don't know all the details, but I do know that that's an effort that they want to expand and they want to add more to the collection.
Thank you.
Virginia.
Yeah, Billy, I was just I put it in the chat, but I think it got it got buried. Can you talk a little bit more about the job title changes? Were all of them strictly title changes to help sort of realign different departments and sort of get things in order for some of this expansion, or did any of them come with role changes?
Lori, I'll ask for your help with this too, but kind of working through the list, Nora Sanchez, her title change to Latinx language and culture librarian is a shift in her responsibilities it's something that I know it's a need that's been there, and now Nora's in a position where she can lead that work. Previously, she was doing more early childhood focused. I think, Lori, am I correct in saying that? Previously, more early childhood focused, and now focused on the Latinx language and culture, and doing programming for our community around that. Then you have the next three changes referring to Rafal, Amy, and Marcin. Those are all related to some shifts for our technology service area. So there's technology services is now made up of two teams: information technology and creative technology. Creative technology is the growing team, the team where they have the creative studio has been created, or creative studio has been built. And now we need to put a team together to make sure that functions and we're able to provide programming to the community for it. Amy has been doing great work in our middle and high school services area to support teens and the digital learning there. And it's just kind of a shifting of, like, instead of having that be in middle and high school services only, we're moving it up to to creative technology, where she can support middle and high schoolers still, but doing that from the creative studio area. And then Marcin, just instead of being the manager of information technology, just being more generic and I shouldn't say generic, more giving him more umbrella term to make sure he is overseeing information technology and creative technology. So growing that responsibility. And then I mentioned the changes to for collection services, where Barb Fitzgerald's title is changing to manager of collection services to be, again, more encompassing of the responsibilities, where she picked up materials handling so that Kathleen Spale can focus on being a manager and curator of special collections. So that's kind of my summary. I feel like I need to write a report to capture all of this, but yeah, there's a lot of work just to kind of align our titles and our people where the work that's being done and where it makes sense right now.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If there's no other questions, we'll move on to financial reports.
So if I understand correctly, we're actually expecting to get that second thing in December, right? That's what we're fully expecting to get it in December.
Yeah, Madrima, I met with Jeremy last week-ish, and we're expecting to get it in December, but we're still making a contingency plan should that not happen. The state seems well aware that getting it done before the end of the year is pretty essential for everyone. So that's kind of where we're resting our hope that it will be done in time and it'll be done in December. But Jeremy and I talked through and walked through some of our best options for extending access to funds, should we need to do that past February, where we're already prepared to get to and through February. So making plans for if we need to finance ourselves through March and April.
So can I ask why why we didn't qualify for that Cook County Bridge funding?
I believe our reserve funds were too good.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Well, Jeremy, I hope you've taken note and we'll do a worse job with our, with our reserve funds next time.
And I had a question that I think Matarima asked Jeremy as well. On page 39, the lost books reimbursement to Swan. I am assuming that if I don't return a book, then we have to pay Swan.
That's a revenue line. So if somebody in the Swan Consortium borrows one of the Oak Park Public Library books and does not return them, Swan will send checks to the libraries. So there's money passing. I imagine, there's money coming and going on that.
Okay, so if I have taken out a video or something from Swan, and we don't have the lost books, no fine fee, do we owe Swan?
We still charge fee. We still charge for lost items. We don't do late fees. Like lost and damaged, there are still fees for that, Ted. It's the late fees. I mean, if someone never returns anything, we still, like pursue
So
that.
the $1,300 is what they just determine these will never come back because a child has eaten at the book, or what?
For a variety of things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions regarding the Jeremy's report? Okay, and then the next item is the disbursements resolution. Are there any questions regarding that disbursements? Transaction register, basically, which I believe is starting on page 43. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve?
I'll move.
Moved by Colleen, is there a second?
I think, Ted, are you seconding? Okay. I'll second.
Thank you, Matarima. There's no other discussion. Will the secretary please take the vote?
Christina,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Colleen,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Virginia,
Yes.
and Madhurima is a yes on the resolution on disbursements.
Thank you. Next item up is iGov, additional reports iGov.
Evening, everyone. iGov last Saturday, I believe, we did a post-mortem on the sustainability forum. There was some light concern that attendance was rather low. However, that the people who attended, all positive in terms of responses. There was talk about next time round trying to shepherd people from the farmers market straight into the high school for the sustainability forum, which is an interesting idea. Village board president Skaman brought to our attention a group that she's helping to organize called C4. It stands for Cross Community Climate Collaborative. Essentially, it's a forum for our neighboring communities to come together and share info and resources on what we're doing to combat climate change. She mentioned that she needed a rep from the township and from the library. So Lori, I don't know if she has reached out to you about having somebody from the library participate in this cohort.
She hasn't yet, but thank you for that heads up.
Sure. And then unfortunately, I couldn't stay for the last bit of the meeting to get clarity. Jody, I got your email about the spring iGov forum is going to be, and by spring, I mean February, so I guess winter. Winter forum is going to be around helping to provide information to people who are interested in running for office. And Jody, I got your email flagging that the League of Women Voters is hosting a candidate forum at the library about running for office. And so I have an inquiry out to iGov about ensuring, one, that those two forums aren't duplicative, but two, making sure that that winter/spring forum is providing a valuable resource to the community. So I don't have an answer for you on that quite yet, but I will be happy to follow up. And that's all from my go.
Colleen, it might be worth noting for the folks to share with iGov that candidates will have already had to file by December 19th. So if they want to help those who plan to run, not sure if February will be beneficial.
Yeah, so not the first person to bring this up.
So.
Yep. So we talked about that a couple meetings ago, and there was still the sentiment that this could provide values. So
Okay.
I will.
Well, I will say, Colleen, this is not the first time that they have also scheduled such an event after candidate filing.
Yep. So I'd be happy to circle back when I get an answer about whether or not they ended up having a tactical discussion about that, but I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
Yep.
When is the League of Women Voters event?
That's a good question, and I can pull it for you. I think it's in November. It's on the library's calendar. How to get on the ballot and stay on the ballot, and it's October 26th, which is tomorrow. I'll drop a link to that forum in the chat.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that information, Colleen.
Sure.
All right. Council of Governments has not met since our last board meeting. ILA legislation and advocacy. I helped lead a panel at the ILA conference last week on Wednesday for that was geared for library staff, librarians, with State Representative Kathleen Willis and State Senator Laura Murphy talking and helping answer questions for library staff and a few library trustees about how to be effective advocates with legislators, about when to approach them for specific programs, develop relationships so that when they know, when their legislative offices hear about grants, they know to call the libraries to get them hooked in and such. It was very well appreciated. Representative Willis is an MLIS holder. She used to work at the Elmhurst College Library before becoming a state rep, and Senator Murphy was the sponsor of the legislation that addressed the longstanding vacancy in the Niles, Maine Library Board, which was tied up in court. But they have in place a legislative fix for the veto session that they have worked with to make sure that that will address the issues that were missed in the first bill, apparently. So, and that was about it for that. I did hear from many other library folks who, once they heard that I was from Oak Park, congratulating us on our hiring of Jocelyn. From a variety from people I had never met before. Word had quickly gotten out of our hire, and people were saying very nice things. And also a few folks thanked us for our resolution supporting staff. They were very moved by that as well. That apparently had also gotten out. Ted, Planet Green.
Yes, Planet Green, we will be meeting on the 27th of October at 8:30 a.m. And I'm hoping to have a staff person there to help us. And there was a mention of the C4 thing. And so this meeting will go for about 90 minutes at 8:30 in the morning on the 27th. And
Okay.
I believe that Jeremy is now off the staff person, so we have another person who will be talking about sustainability and all of that stuff from staff. Is that correct, Lori?
Yes, it'll either be Elizabeth Marshall or Matt Bertoggi will attend those. I think that hasn't been established yet, but.
Okay, thank you. And I'll also be there.
Thank you, Ted. Friends of the Library.
Yes, we met October 17th, so that was my first time attending one of their meetings. And it was the same day as the folk series concert, so I got to see that a little bit too. So that was something we chatted about as a group. It was a very successful event. Like the whole room was so crowded, and the music was fantastic. Did I hear something?
No, you're okay.
Okay. Beyond that, we talked a little bit about like some other plans that they have underway. They're going to do a film series in the winter with film noir films from the 40s and 50s. And then they are going to be sending out membership information for how to renew your membership if you're a friend of the libraries. And that was pretty much it. But if I missed anything, Lori, feel free to chime in.
One question Russ had was whether we had a place for an ongoing book sale, a shelf. He wants to do that until the next fair, and we did find a spot on the second floor. So near the second floor service desk, so they'll be having their friends' bookshelf and selling books throughout the year.
Lori, when you just said that, it just reminded me, I'll have to send you all a picture. I was on Beaver Island this summer, or actually in the fall, and went to their library and met their library director. And they have a tent set up that has a ongoing book sale, like with books out, and then a box where people can leave the money and take a book. And I took some pictures of that. I'll have to remember to send those to you. I thought that was really, an interesting idea. It's a very different community on an island where everybody knows everybody, and but the ongoing nature I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. Thanks.
And also, Suzanne and Lori, when I talked to Jocelyn about Friends of the Library, she has completely good new ideas as well. So that's exciting.
That's wonderful.
One other question, I'm sorry, that came up when Christina, you were talking about the film series, the films of the 40s and 50s. One note is, when we do nostalgic, when there's nostalgic programming of books or movies, that perhaps there might be some way the library can engage with the anti-racism lens. to make sure that that's not kind of oppositional to the goals that are being set.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Okay. Well, with that, we'll move on to unfinished business, our fiscal 2023 budget.
All right, well, we're hoping for a vote to approve tonight. Jeremy's here to take your questions about the 2023 budget.
I had a question about, did I understand correctly from the memo that we are now looking at something like 98.9% of our budget being from tax revenue? Is that correct? And that we expect that to be the case moving forward?
Correct. Yeah, what that is, I'll try to zoom in. A little easier to see on the screen. Small here. All right, so the 2020 budget is this, the blank column here. So if you look down, property taxes for operating, this is what we're actually levying for. Corporate property replacement tax, that we don't levy for, we don't expect to, I mean, we get that, but it's difficult to count on because it depends on how well the businesses are doing and when that's distributed and things like that. I think that's quarterly that comes out. Service charges and fees, this is for room rentals and some of the smaller items. Before 2019, I think this was substantially higher. This included late overdue charges, things like that. So years ago, this was substantial. Lost books reimbursements, that was discussed earlier. That's primarily SWAN book money coming in. And I'm not sure, and Elizabeth might know right offhand, but we can find out exactly what's in this, Ted, to answer your question in a little more detail, because I'm not sure, and maybe Lori knows, if all of the libraries in Swan do not charge late fees. If they do, they might be changing that money around and transferring that money around too. So I'm not sure if that's completely just like lost items. But that too is diminished down to $5,000 insubstantial. Rentals, library space, this too is hardly anything at all. Parking lot revenue, this, you can expect this to go up a little bit as things, people start using the library more, filling up over summer. Our gates are working now a little more consistently, so that's great. Thanks to Matt and his work. And so we can expect some of that to go up. The challenge with some of these things like parking lot revenue is most of that money is not actually a revenue stream. It's really goes right back into the maintenance of the parking lot. So anytime we have a service call, so you're collecting it on this side, but that money's going out to maintain those gates and pay that. So it doesn't really help us as far as the budget. Spending enterprise income, that's negligible. So you can see photocopier fees, that's all been eliminated. So all these revenue streams, or user fees that the library used to charge patrons is now mostly gone. Some of the smaller ones, the grants, are difficult to tell what grant's going to be available and how we're going to be able to, are we going to be able to get that grant? And some of it's just questionable. Miscellaneous income is hardly anything at all. So that really is kind of what we expect going forward, unless we were to come up with some other revenue stream where it's use fees. I think there is some, we do have to be cautious about becoming a business business enterprise through the library. So that's something we'd have to look at too. But I don't see this changing much at all going forward, that I think the majority, 99+%, is going to be property taxes for operating.
Have
Jeremy,
you considered,
I'm sorry, Jeremy, if this is Ted, if I could chime in, I am really concerned that, of course, the Friends of the Library, that's nice. We get like $19,000 from them, and I do think that a big question that we have to think going forward is, do we need to find a way to do foundational fundraising or community fundraising beyond the tax revenue? And if I were a part of the board again, I would like to do that. That has lots and lots of community issues about it, but 98% comes from tax revenue. That's wonderful. But should we think about a foundation
This,
apart
but
from the community foundation?
this, I would say that, Ted, this has come up time and again, like multiple times since I've been on the board. And this is always something that someone on the board says something we should look at. But the we always ends up becoming staff looking at and coming back to us and saying, unless we hire someone whose intent and their job is to do that fundraising, there is not bandwidth in the staff for
Right.
them to do this.
Right,
So
but
this would be something that the board would have to take on. Board members would have to commit to. And one of the things that has come up, and when we have researched this and tried to like explore this in the past, is fundraising for a public entity when there is not a specific project at hand, like the construction, the bricks that were sold to fund the art fund, for the main branch, the bricks that were sold for some of the specific projects at the Maze branch, is incredibly hard because people see us as a public body that is already getting tax dollars, and they are not inclined to give a public body more of their money otherwise, without it being tied to a specific project. I'm
So I
all
just
I'm all
bring
for
it
this,
up.
but I think we need, and I'm saying it's been brought up, Ted, and the fact that we don't have something in place and haven't had something in place should be an indication that this is something that like the whole board would have to take on collectively as a responsibility. And I'm happy to have this discussion again, but it's just, this is something that comes up like every 3-4 years, and it's always a meeting where we talk about it, and no one ever wants to continue pushing on it because it just, no one has the drive to do it. It's
Thank
a
you so
good
much.
idea, and it talks.
Thank you so much, and I will continue to push, and this is something I would love to do. Thanks.
Okay. Maharima, you had another point.
no, I was going to do a callback to a previous joke about if Jeremy had considered not being so good about our reserves so that we would have, that could be another source of funding, but I'm sorry, we've moved on to serious pastures.
Okay. So, other questions regarding presented budget?
I was actually hoping Jeremy could speak a little bit to the capital projects that we're looking at for 2023. Mostly because I'm getting a little bit itchy seeing some red numbers in the projected budget for 2025. So just, I guess for our own edification, Jeremy, can you can you talk us through some of those and why specifically they're falling within this year? Are we expecting any of them to hold over until the next fiscal year?
Some of those, I was gonna make a comment, volley that back to Madarima about the fund balance. So we are using the fund balance. And I think that's something that, you know, we need to be aware of going forward. I think you all are. The capital projects, some of these have been deferred. It's not showing up on this, but on the full spreadsheet, you might see some notes. Or I can share them with you. Some of these have already been deferred and some are just like, for example, paint and finishes. It's pretty easy to spend $30,000. Capital asset study, this is one that was deferred. We had in this year, and the last time the study was done was 2016. And a lot of those issues that were brought up, some of them have been done, some have been kind of let go and still deteriorating. I think, Matt, you mentioned something in the garage, some leaks in the garage we were looking at last fall. So that's been brought to the attention of Matt and Elizabeth, so they're aware of that. But that's something that the capital asset study, I think we, at this point, in my opinion, we really need a professional engineer to come in and take a look at things, give us a new fresh roadmap with some more up-to-date costing as opposed to 2016. Some of these other things are small, walls and doors, additional improvements. I know there's additional work that that staff is looking at in the creative space to really expand that and build that. And I think the question came up in an email about the creative equipment. And yeah, I think that's what the title is in there. And that's what that is. It's like really taking hold along with the staffing that Billy mentioned in the creative studio, the creative technology department. So that's some of that. Most of this security systems, we're still lacking in some of that with the cameras. And part of this, I think, is to expand and get additional cameras in spaces, some of the space. And I'm not sure exactly where they're looking at it, but I would imagine like the new middle school area, I don't think we have coverage in that area. And that might be something that we'll need to look at. I know there's some outdoor cameras some areas that we could actually use some more additional outdoor cameras. So this has been really ongoing. The access control system, we had hoped earlier this year that it would include some of the cameras, and the cost was just too high to change that access control. So we started upgrading this year the software for the access control system, and then also improving some of the cameras, like actually repairing cameras that were not functioning properly. So those upgrades have gone on this year. And so the 25,000 into next year is to continue that work and really make sure that we have good solid coverage for our safety. Carpeting, simple, small things. The HVAC is the big one. That's the new one here. That's something that our chiller, we noticed earlier this year that we were having issues with one of the chillers. And started investigating that, and one of the chillers has actually failed. So this was earlier in the summer. There's actually two main chillers here to cool the main library. One of them failed, so all of the work was being done by the other one. If the other one failed as well, we would have no cooling. So this summer we were talking about doing some testing, and we said, no, let's leave the one running to make sure we can stay open, and then look at replacing or repairing this other chiller. So Elizabeth and Matt have been working on that. An RFP has been put out. I believe the bid opening is on Monday, this coming Monday. So part of the challenge with that is the lead time to get all the supplies and the work planned out. So that's a project that is critical, and
Did we get a sense of, do we have a sense yet of the cause of that failure?
Part of it, I think it was just, there were some leaks that had been let go. And so I believe it was in March or April, I was working with Complete Temperature Systems, who is our mechanical contract for the HVAC system. And they were looking at they noticed some of the issues. We actually had them out to look at what's going on with it. And they had done some analysis and found that there were multiple leaks on the one chiller. And he said, if you can replenish the gas, which is what cools it, think like coolant in your car. So you can replenish that. It's just going to continue to leak out. And just to fill those tanks would have been $30,000. So you would have been putting $30,000 into equipment that would just be leaking that out. And so that's why we were kind of holding that off, trying to figure out like what's the best approach to get this going forward and make sure that we're set and we have the best plan going forward. So that's kind of where that was. I think it just built up over time.
So Jeremy, I looked at the $10,000 for the electric vehicle charging stations. Is that like for people who are patrons or staff, or is this like something that we would be a revenue generating thing? What is that?
It's potential revenue generating. It is for patrons. That was the intent. This was in there last year as well. This may have actually been deferred from this year and bumped it into next year. But I think I had it in there for last year. And now handing that off to Matt and Elizabeth to really take a look at it. But that amount is an estimate from our contractor who did most of the lighting upgrades. You'll see some of those other additional lighting upgrades, the LED upgrades. So these two cells here, those amounts, and then this ongoing forward is to replace all the lighting to LED. And then this was the start to get some charging stations for the public in our parking lot. Electrical data on the east side. So so by this 2026 here, this number here, all built, Maze Branch is already 100% LED. The intent is by 2026, the main branch would be 100% LED. And, the presentation I did at Planet Green in September, I think spoke about that. We replaced, when we first started this, the first thing we replaced was the artichoke lights in the main library. And just by replacing those and being able to turn those off, we saved 30% more energy than we would have created if we put solar on a rooftop. And the solar panels on the roof were over $100,000. The lighting and the artichoke lights were under $5,000 to replace those. And each year we've been doing different phases of that project as well and gathering up some ComEd incentives for that. So that will be ongoing for the sustainability work. The electrical and data outlets for the east side of the public spaces. This we started, actually Lori kind of led that work. That's with the new study carrels. And I think we had some patron emails coming out about how good that was that we had the power installed. So if you go in by the study rooms on the second floor on the south side of the building, there's power strips and power outlets all along the wall there by those study carrels. And that's also included in the teen space. We added in power strips with USB and power in there as well. And so this is an expansion of that to better utilize the space along the east wall of the public space on the second and third floors. And so that's where people could sit by those beautiful windows and look out over Schoolville Park and make sure that they have power to charge their devices. So that's what that work is primarily. for the electrical data outlets. Motorized blinds, this is something in the veterans room. None of us have been really, well, some have been in there, but some of us haven't been in there in a long time. If you close those blinds, say you're doing a theater show or something like that, and you close the blinds on the west side of the wall, the church side, you'll see big gouge in that, the screen has been torn. And so that is the estimate to replace that. And I think there's some other blinds in there as well that are damaged. Carpeting throughout, $20,000 for that. That's something, this was deferred from last year, or from this year as well. I think last year when we were working on the budget, we deferred the carpeting. And keep in mind, any of these things like the carpeting, we go through there and we get some carpet cleaning or something like that. This doesn't necessarily mean that we have to do this, right? This is in the budget. And then we make an informed decision as we get closer. Even this year, some of the projects, we're not going to be able to complete some of these projects this year before winter sets in. So some of those will be bumped.
Thank you for your good work.
Yeah, this $50,000 this year, this was the estimate for replacing the maze roof. We replaced the peak roof on the maze branch a couple of years ago. This is the flat portion of the roof. There are blisters in there. So with the blisters, I mean, they're literally like a bubble the size of a half a melon. If those split, then you can get leaks in there. And that's something that we had in the budget that was critical. Looking at multiple companies, we got a company that is going to seal the coat this, and I believe Elizabeth is on, and she can correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. But the system that they put on this is a 50-year warranty, and it's basically a coating. So there's no landfill. It's just basically sealing it back up with a 50-year warranty, and I believe it costs under $20,000 to do this. So there's some tuck pointing at maze that we're going to be able to do because of those savings on that. That is causing some leaks at the maze branch as well. So we're kind of doubling up on that work from this year. So those are the buildings, and then you'll see going forward some of the other things. Paint, we figure $30,000 a year just to keep up moving around the building and try and get some freshening on that. Then as you go further out, sure, it certainly gets harder to project and figure out what costs we're going to have to deal with as far as capital projects and maintenance. So I put 300,000 in here and 500,000. Historically, it's been about $500,000 a year for capital projects and capital maintenance. And so it's just to make sure that we have that projected out. This feeds automatically into the main spreadsheet here, into the capital. And so that feeds into the totals. So those numbers you can see projected going out, where our fund balance is going to be, go out through 2028 on kind of crystal ball projections. So that's that spreadsheet technology. This is actually relatively minor this year. We had some major projects going in the previous year, but these are things, technology equipment for staff, $20,000, that can go pretty quick. Ethernet cables and IDF patch panels. This, I think we deferred, if I remember right. This was also deferred from this year, and it's just running out of the service life on that stuff. Certainly the IDF patch panel. Cybersecurity assessment improvement. This is something that is becoming critical more. I mean, if you watch any news at all, get any news, you're hearing about cyber activity and cyber crime. We do have some systems in place, but there's also some things we want to make sure that we're not having gaps in that. I know libraries that have been attacked and had ransomware attached to that. We do have insurance, but part of the insurance coverage is that when we fill out the application for an insurance, they're asking questions about what we do for cybersecurity. And the other thing with the insurance part of this is the word and through Lyra, our insurance pool, is that there's potential that we will not be able to get cybersecurity much longer going forward because of the number of attacks that are happening and the payout that the insurance companies are having to do. So it's just getting more and more costly for them. So it's getting harder and harder to find insurance company that will insure us against that. So this too, I think, is pretty important.
So on cybersecurity, that is simply for infrastructure and stuff. It's not staff, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Yes, that is part of it. Part of it's staff training. We do quite a bit of staff training on phishing attacks. I think Martine has done an outstanding job on that. We actually, and Billy is actually tagged on that as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, Billy. But the same system that we use for cybersecurity training, we also use for harassment prevention training, tornado warnings, stuff like that. That is a system that we can track to where we're sure we're getting annual training on all of those things.
Thank you.
I feel like I was talking really fast and nonstop. So if you have any questions on any of it, let me know. And anything else on the spreadsheets up here as well.
Thank you, Jeremy. It was very helpful, is laying out exactly, sometimes it's easy to forget, when we make those decisions in past years to defer certain things, to remember that what we've already deferred something once and kind of need to get to it. Otherwise, it's just going to get continually more expensive as things go along. So are there any other questions or concerns regarding our budget?
I don't know if I had asked this before. I know I definitely asked this last year. Do we know what the other taxing bodies, what percentage asks,
Yeah, they're all doing 5.
including the village?
Mm-hmm.
The villages has said, or at least they have so far been talking about trying for 0, but
Is that
I,
not true? That's what
Well,
I've heard too.
I don't think that well, I won't say on, I don't think they're going for 0.
it may not be fiscally possible for them. And of course, they have many sources of fees and fines that they can lead into and increase to offset that revenue. Should they choose not to go with a property tax increase. So. But no, they have done a very good job of getting out and talking about what they are going to do. But again, they can't finish their work until we give them ours. So they are a ways away from their final budgets. So
I do know that the schools and the park and the township, well, not the township, but the schools in the park are doing 5.
okay. Any other questions or discussion?
With the budget for the salaries, last time we were talking about, trying to bring to meet the market. And there was the possibility of making the bigger change and the smaller change. And where did we land with that? Did that make any sense? I'm sorry, I'm pretty tired.
Yeah, the scenario C that we discussed at last month's meeting, and I took the board's direction and incorporated that into this the draft of the budget you see in front of you. So
Okay.
when it says wages and salaries, that line's going up 10.53%. That's inclusive of an average of 8.2% pay increase for our current staff members, and adding some positions to support community engagement, our technology team, and our middle and high school services team.
Great, thank you.
All right. With that, is there a motion to approve the budget as presented before us?
Ted so moves.
Is there a second?
Second.
I believe that was Virginia with a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, will the secretary please take the vote?
Christina,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes,
Colleen,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Virginia,
Yes.
and Madhurima is a yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Budget.
Thank you.
We are good to go for 2023. And with that, we will go into closed session. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Colleen. Is there a second?
second.
Ted seconds.
I think Suzanne got in there first. Matarima, will you take the vote, please?
Yeah, Christina,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes,
Colleen,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Virginia,
Yes.
and Madhurima is a yes to go into closed session.
So we'll use the closed session link in the email from Elizabeth.
Wait, do we know that did anybody test to make sure that that's working?
I think the email links are working. It was the one in the agenda that was, had the
Oh
problem.
yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm sorry, of course. Thank you.
Okay, if you don't see me, then we won't work, but you will see me soon. Thanks.
Hi again.
Still raining, you know.
All right. So as soon as everyone jumps in, we'll get going on that on the collective bargaining agreement. All right. Wonderful. We are all back, I believe. Is there a motion to approve the contract, union contract as presented in the board packet?
So moved.
Moved by Virginia. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Colleen. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, will the secretary take the vote, please?
Absolutely. Christina,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Colleen,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Virginia,
Yes.
and Madhurima is yes to accept the contract. Sign? Who signs it? Do you sign it, Matt?
Yes. Thank you all. That is approved. I'm sure everyone will be happy that we have this in the books. And with that, we have concluded our business for tonight's meeting, and we stand adjourned.
And so,
Thank-
Madarima, you are our secretary. You have to sign it too.
I do.
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Um,
The secretary usually signs the resolutions.
Internal stuff, yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure out. We'll get the confirmation from our attorney who has to sign off it. There looks like there are several spaces, so we'll figure out who. But thank you all, and Lori, thank you once again.
Oh,
for
thank
one
you.
last meeting.
Thank you, Lori.
I appreciate all of you. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
We
Thanks.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Evening all.
Good
Night.
evening, and we are adjourned.
Good night.